#1.
Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The fifth pick in the NBA draft will be made by the Utah Jazz. The second pick will be made by the San Antonio Spurs, and that means that the #1 pick in the 2025 NBA draft goes to the Dallas Mavericks.
So tired of looking at Mark Tatum's smug face.
Yeah. I didn't like that at all.
I'm screwing you guys over, and you're going to deal with it. Rough day here in Utah. Andy Bailey, kind enough to join us, NBA writer for Bleacher Report. Andy, not a good day here in the 801, man.
I imagine it's a terrible one for Jazz fans. I as soon as they were announced last night, obviously your mind goes to them when you hear that name, but I just thought, holy cow. What a rough 3 years it's been since the Mitchell and Gobert trades, and this felt like the best shot for them, and to not even stay in the top four is just crazy.
So we talk about this being a bad day for the Utah Jazz, but Andy, I know that you're really connected through all 30. How bad of a day is this for 27 or 28 other organizations?
I think if any time that you don't win the lottery or move up in it, it can be bad. But there are other implications here, which I think is what you're alluding to.
Exactly, yes.
The San Antonio Spurs now seem like a prime candidate to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo. That was one of the first thoughts I had last night. The Mavericks, who were already a fringe playoff team, now get the #1 pick, which is just exceptionally unusual. I think the Lakers, how do they always get so lucky year after year after year? They could be a fringe beneficiary of this, because if Dallas adds another front court player, they might want to move one of those centers, and LA needs a center. So the chips fell miraculously in very fortunate ways to a handful of teams. Obviously, you got to mention Philly too. I mean, they fell backwards into a top 3 pick despite, just an epic failure of a regular season. This obviously wasn't their goal going in. And so, 3, 4, 5 teams are probably pretty happy today. And everybody else, I think, is understandably probably wringing their hands. So
if you're the GM and you're Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck with the Utah Jazz, and you just put this fan base was all in. I mean, Hans and I are at games. That arena was packed more often than not because people knew going in, okay, there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing. And they'd go home and they'd watch Duke highlights and be like, okay, all right, we can work through this. There's an end game here. And then to have it ripped away, it's going to be really hard to sell this again next year. If it's like, well, hey, here's AJ DeBonsa, or here's, it's really going to be hard because this fan base got burnt. How do you adjust accordingly, or do you tank it again with 2 more youngsters, with Lauri Markkanen right there in the prime of his career, probably not wanting to be part of this? Like, there's a lot of avenues here the Jazz can take, and none of them seem to be very good.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think this was their out. If they had landed this #1 pick in a draft where it looks like there's a very, very good top pick available, things obviously look much, much different. I think given the nature of being a small market team in the NBA, you probably have to just keep tanking until you get that generational star, as difficult as that is. And I think it's even more difficult to sell now than it was 5-10 years ago, because we're seeing year after year after year examples of tanking doesn't guarantee you anything. Charlotte, Utah, and Washington all moved down. Utah and Washington moved down pretty dramatically, 4 spots each. I hope I'm not misstating something, but I'm pretty sure I saw someone say that since they flattened the odds to the bottom 3 records all having a 14% chance at the #1 overall pick, I don't think any of those teams have ended up number one.
Nope.
I need to go back and double check that.
Nope, that's right.
So there's confirmation right there. It's just, yeah. So maybe as I'm answering your question, I'm talking myself into, can you really tank again? Because just the traditional form of tanking, it hasn't yielded results. But at the same time, it's hard to bank on any other form of team building if you're a team like Utah or Charlotte or even Washington at this point. You build a team through the draft, through trades, or through free agency. And free agency, unfortunately, is just not a great option for those smaller market teams. And even trades are risky because if you bring in a guy who's in his prime and it's like a star level player, all you're going to hear for the year or two that he's there from the national media is how can so-and-so get out? I mean, it even happened with Cleveland when they got Donovan Mitchell. He has signed an extension here fairly recently, and I think it quieted it a little bit. But between the trade from Utah to that extension, it was just constant talk of how can we get Donovan Mitchell to New York? Who knows how much media influences what actually happens in front offices? Probably not very much. But generally speaking, in the NBA, at least relative to like the NHL or the NFL, it's just harder to be really successful as a small market team.
So, Andy, there's something that kind of looms over my head, and Scotty and I have talked about it over the last couple of years, and it feels like it looms over the Jazz head to a large degree. And I'm excited to get your thoughts on this specifically because Scotty and I would really love to see the Jazz move on and make trades and do what they got to do to get themselves back in postseason play. But they've got this OKC top 8 protected pick now that's hanging around their neck. The 2026 conveyance is top 8 protected. So if the Jazz, let's say they even make the play-in tournament, get bounced, they've got to convey that lottery pick over to OKC. So how much does that top 8 protected pick force the Jazz hand to maybe tank again?
I think a decent amount. To answer it bluntly, I think if you're in this point of a rebuild that Utah is in, and it seems like they've kind of been stuck at the same point for 3 years. So I don't blame any fans for being impatient, but they still don't have I really don't think they have a single guy who could develop into a franchise type of player. And when you're in that spot, you have to just keep taking as many bites at the draft apple as you can. And every opportunity is valuable. And they've had a lot of opportunities in the last few years. Like they've had decent shots at it. And they've got several young guys on the roster right now, and they're, varying levels of potential with them. But again, it just doesn't seem like any of them are going to be like they don't have the next Donovan Mitchell or the next Rudy Gobert on the roster right now. It just doesn't seem that way. Maybe, as I say that, maybe you could argue that Walker Kessler is a bona fide defensive anchor. I think you could probably make that play, but you need a dynamic offensive player too, and they don't have that yet. So they need to keep whacking away at this draft strategy, as difficult as that may be to hear in the wake of what happened last night. I genuinely felt gutted for Jazz fans as soon as that was announced last night. And it was just such a wild lottery, and they may be the biggest loser of the bunch. It's just awful.
All right, so it is what it is. Jazz are picking 5th. Everybody is, we've all talked about Cooper Flagg. Then okay, well, if it's not Cooper Flagg, it'll be, Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey. Yeah. All 3 of those are going to be out of the mix. So does Edgecombe fall? Like, what are we looking at 5?
Edgecombe is a name that comes to mind. It seems like he's probably going to go in the top 4. But there's always some kind of a shakeup early in the draft. I think Cooper Flagg is really the only sure thing. I think Dylan Harper is fairly sure thing at number 2, but I also could see San Antonio trading that pick. So there's a lot that could happen, and I think BJ Edgecombe could fall. I think Trey Johnson from Texas is maybe kind of interesting from them. Con Kniffel from Duke is a guy that I think could be interesting for them. I mean, there are interesting potential players still available. It's just, it's just tough when you're comparing it to the possibility of, what might have been prior to last night. And there is no draft. I mean, typically there's no drafting for need when you're in the top 5 regardless, but there truly is not for Utah. So whoever they settle on as the best player available, there's opportunities on that roster and in that rotation, whether it's a guard, wing, probably even a big guy, although that one would be the one that would most surprise me, again, because I think you can talk yourself into Kessler, and I think some of the guys in that 5, 6, 7 range that are more interesting are more guards and wings. So there are guys that I think could maybe move the needle a little bit. I'm not certain that any of them is going to be a superstar, but like you said, it is what it is. They've got to play this hand that they've been dealt.
What kind of trade potential does the number 5 and number, I think it's 21, that they possess? What is the trade power of that, and maybe packaging something with some of their other 6 picks that they've taken over the last 2 drafts, or maybe that future 2031 Suns pick that they've got, the unprotected? Is there enough there that they could do something powerful with any of that, Andy, to change their stars? And then again, you've got that number 8 protected pick that's hanging around your neck.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they could make a move for a veteran. I'm not sure they have enough to go enter the Giannis sweepstakes. And then, the other thing that's just kind of tough in the NBA that I don't follow other sports closely enough to know how much this exists. I think it exists more in the NBA than anywhere else. One of the big factors in trades is the player who is being traded just has so much say over what happens, regardless of which team holds the best trade package. So if Giannis does indeed say, I think I need to find somewhere else to have a better shot at a championship, and here's my list of teams, we just haven't seen Utah on one of those lists before. So I'm not sure they can go after like the top end players that might be available this summer. And then, the next tier of guy, even if we assume that he wouldn't mind going to Utah, I'm not sure someone like Kevin Durant would even make sense for the Jazz. I mean, if he's not 37, he's close, and he's got plenty of injuries in his past. One thing that I just pulled up contracts for next season. I'm scanning as I talk to you guys. One that could be interesting, and he's a player that I for years have actually thought is slightly overrated, but I honestly think there's a chance he might become available this summer, is Jaylen Brown. And maybe if you can piece together enough salary and enough picks, and you can offer some financial flexibility to Boston, that could be interesting. And I would think that he'd be kind of an interesting combo with Lauri Markkanen, and then you have Kessler as your defensive anchor. So I think there are opportunities to go get a veteran, and they still have a decent amount of draft assets to be in the mix for a player like that. It's something that they should at least explore. I think everything has to be on the table for them at this point.
Andy, is the NBA dealing with a bit of an identity crisis? And what I mean is the regular season wild with 128, 132s, and now we're watching 86 to 92s. Games feel like they're called different. Watching Steph Curry be draped over when they were going against Houston, and it just feels like everything's different in the postseason. Is there a bit of an identity crisis on what you want your league to look like?
Yeah, the way you laid it out is exactly correct. And I'm certain that the regular season version is not the right identity. I'll start there.
I agree with that.
I'm not 100% certain that what we're seeing now is the right identity either.
Yeah.
I think if you could get maybe most of the way to what we're seeing now, if there's some spectrum between typical February game and what we're seeing now, I think you'd want it closer to what we're seeing now, but maybe not all the way, because like you said, that some of the contact that's being allowed is frankly crazy. And you brought up an example that stands out to me every single time the Warriors are in the playoffs for whatever reason. And this guy is one of the biggest stars in the history of the league. he's not even allowed to move off the ball. I mean, it's just constant being held and grabbed and, chipped off the screens. And it's crazy to me. And so I think the pendulum has swung a little bit too far in the postseason. I don't know exactly how you recreate this, but I felt like the flow of the games, and I have felt this for a while. Actually, it wasn't just the Paris Olympics, but the flow and the physicality of the games in FIBA basketball, I think, should kind of be the ideal. Flopping is actually penalized there. A lot of times it's ignored, which is better than what happens in the NBA. Defenders are allowed to be a little bit more physical than they are in the NBA regular season, but they're also not mugging guys like we're seeing now. And the other, factor to talk about on this point is we're seeing a ton of injuries in the playoffs too.
Yeah.
And who knows if it's directly caused by the increase in physicality, but it's certainly a possibility to have two very high profile players really tear their Achilles in back-to-back series is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And, now Stephen Curry's out with his hamstring thing.
Cleveland doesn't have a bench or a backup.
Yeah, Cleveland was missing 2 starters and one, like their sixth man for a game in this series. Like, yeah, there's certainly something to think about here. And it's one thing that I have to remind myself constantly is the NBA officials have an extremely difficult job. These guys are huge. They're extremely fast. They are actively trying to trick the referees throughout games. So it's I almost feel bad putting more responsibility on them and saying, it's up to you guys to fix this. But we have seen over the course of recent history, they can adjust. I mean, we've seen the points of emphasis, and they're a big deal for a month or two, and then things just kind of regress back to where they were. I think if the NBA allowed a little bit more physicality in the regular season, severely punished flopping, I think things would start to look a little bit more like FIBA, and it would just be a better product.
Well, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks for hanging out with us, and look forward to catching up again here soon.
You're the best, Andy. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always love coming on.
You got it. Andy Bailey, we appreciate it. One of your better NBA writers, and he was right there with every other Jazz fan, just gutted. Not saying he's a Jazz fan. I'm just saying, like,
he sees it.
He sees the pain. He sees the anguish.
I think that the bigger issue that we've got going on right now with the NBA is this identity issue.
Yes. Yep.
And everybody I talk to is like, well, got to get something figured out because players need to have an expectation.
Yeah.
And what I'm worried about, Scotty, is you already put out a bowl of milk for the cat. They already are used to it. They're coming for the milk. They're used to it. How do you change this league? These guys have now grown up watching a certain brand of basketball, and you've recruited to and developed to and scouted to a certain brand of big that is unique now, that stretches, and it's just the way you play. And, it's positionless basketball, and everybody's transition threeing, and everybody's looking for the flop. There was a bit of European style that was brought by Manu Ginobili and kind of tweaked and torqued into whatever James Harden has done over the years, and the league is a mess. And then all of a sudden, the postseason, you swallow your whistle. Yeah. Except for on Shai Gilgeous. And you got yourself a real mess.
Yeah, it's a PR nightmare.
It's a PR nightmare.
It really is.
And like I was saying, that's why I was so excited about the potential of Cooper Flag. Because however the NBA ends up figuring out which direction they want to go, I think you could say, all right, Cooper, this is what we're going to do. And Cooper has the tools. Okay, I'm going to go be a defensive juggernaut, a defensive mastermind. I'll defend 1 through 4. I can even defend certain 5s. And this is the physicality I can, because he's strong. And I thought, man, he's so moldable. Yeah, well, that's
out the window.
That was run over by a vehicle.
Well, you want to hear some angry, loud noises? Get ready. David Locke's going to join us coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, folks. Coming up here in just a moment, you're going to hear from David Locke. I do not know what David is going to say. I do not know what path he's going to take. All I know is that we're going to tee him up and let him do his thing. Because there are certain days that it just makes sense to talk to David. And, David and I, we exchange texts every now and then. I purposely, knowing that David was going to come on today, I purposely did not reach out in any way, shape, or form because I wanted David unleashed. I did not listen to Locked On Jazz for that reason. The only time I didn't listen to Locked On Jazz because I did not want to be influenced one way or another because I want David Locke unfiltered, not knowing what direction he's going to go. Is it going to be angry David? Is it going to be sorrowful David? I don't know what we're getting, but all I know is he joins us now, the play-by-play voice of the Utah Jazz. David, the floor is yours.
I might be too rational for you today.
No rational, David. No.
All right. Here's the first rational aspect. Let's go with the very few things. Okay, first, thank goodness Oklahoma City didn't get like the 7th pick. Because when I thought Oklahoma City was coming up 7 because Dallas and Chicago had already jumped, or whoever it was it Dallas and whoever had already jumped, I thought, or Dallas and San Antonio already jumped, I thought Philadelphia was going to then get bumped out and Oklahoma City was going to get that pick. Then I really would have been pissed. Okay, I don't want to hear about how great the Spurs are. This is too easy. Like, do something hard. Win without a number 1 pick sometimes. Then I'll be impressed. Okay, so I'm just going to eliminate great Greg Popovich, greatest coach of all time. He now has no credit, nothing else. And when Mitch Johnson's the 2nd greatest coach of all time because they just traded the number 2 pick in Stephen Castle for Giannis, and he wins a bunch of titles, I'm not impressed. Win without a number 1 pick. Win without winning the lottery sometime. Okay. Those 2 things are true. In regards to our 5th pick, kind of sucks. However, it's not like they changed the rules last week. We went into this process knowing there was a 48% chance that we were getting the 5th pick. Right? It wasn't like 3 weeks ago they said, oh, by the way, we're going to change the rules. This part of the calculus that existed by the front office, by the Jazz, I hope, because if not, then that's negligent. I don't think they're negligent, is that we're going to do this, probably do it for a few years, and part of the risk is that there's a 48% chance, even if we have the worst record in the league, that you get the 5th pick. That's like the way the rules have been written for a long time. So that part of it, it sucks. It would have been great to get a guiding star, right? We didn't get a guiding star. If that, we're still going to be a bit aimless here for a while because if you have Cooper Flagg and probably if you have Dylan Harper, the way when Detroit got Cade Cunningham, they have their guiding star, right? Everything's building around Cade Cunningham. Houston doesn't have a guiding star unless you think it's Amon Thompson or Alfred Sengun, then maybe they showed enough in the playoffs. But maybe they do now, but they didn't until this playoffs if you think either of those 2 guys are that good.
Orlando got theirs.
I'm not sure which one, but yes, right. Paulo or Franz. Yeah.
Banchero, I love him. Yeah.
San Antonio, so I don't, but he'll get there. I think he's Carmelo, which is fine. It's going into the Hall of Fame, but it might not win you anything. The San Antonio has their guiding star in Victor, and Dallas now has a guiding star in Cooper. We didn't get a guiding star. That's the impact. So now we got to go through this again, but we were going through it again anyway, right? I've heard this sets us back. Here's the truth. We're probably going through this for 3 years. That's kind of what everyone does. Your hope is that somewhere in those 3 years you get the 1st pick. You're probably getting the 5th pick, and you're maybe getting the 3rd pick. And then through that, you have 3 good young players. It's unfortunate for us, emotionally and mentally, that we got the 5th pick first because it feels awful.
Wasn't this the 3rd year of it, though, David?
I don't think it feels that. Yeah, then we timed it badly because last year there wasn't a player that's there, and we did pull the plug on both the last 2 seasons, but it just took us a while to get to this point. But I do think we have 2 more years. We didn't lose enough in the last 2 years to be in the model that I'm talking about, where if you go look at Memphis, Orlando, Houston, Detroit, 7 of them made the playoffs this year, who all had lost had one of the 5 worst records for 3 years in a row. Oklahoma City, I think. And then that got them the young talent, and then you make moves around that young talent. Orlando hasn't made their moves yet, or if they did, was Contavious Caldwell-Pope and was non-impactful. Houston added Fred VanVleet and Dylan Thomas and changed who they were, or Dylan Brooks, sorry. And so that's what you do. Like Detroit added Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley and pumped their guys up a little bit further, and they suddenly were a really good playoff team. Like that's what you do unless you're in New York or Los Angeles, or your other choice to build a franchise is that you hope that you hit on one of the greatest draft picks in 50 years. And two teams have done that, Milwaukee with Giannis and Nikola Jokic in Denver. And if you believe in that model, go for it. But there's no track record that works unless you happen to draft like a miracle draft pick.
It was told to me, I want to say back in March, that realistically we're in the first quarter of the rebuild. And I would like to, since hockey evidently can win lotteries, let's go with we're in the first period rather than the first quarter. All right, fair enough. But ultimately, I've been doing sports radio here for 22 years, and I try not to be that's the greatest game I've ever seen. Blah, blah. I hate being that guy. But the visceral reaction from the fan base last night was, and I get it, you're being rational and you have every right, and everything you're saying is true. But boy, that was a bad night last night. That was a really bad night last night.
Sucked.
So what do you say? What do you say to Joe Schmuckatelli right now?
Wait, here's what I think so interesting about that. Okay, and I'm with you, right? Like I was disheartened too, and literally, I mean, I did the traditional like walked in the pantry and just about had 8 chocolate chip cookies because I don't drink. But clearly, if I drank, that would have been going to the bar and popping the whiskey, right? Like I was there. My version of that is find me my chocolate chip cookies and I'm going to town because I'm going to eat some happiness right now. Most people want to drink it. I was going to eat it. I got it. Okay. I'm with them. But it is kind of weird that we're feeling this way over something that had a 48% chance. It was the single most likely outcome. It's like asking Halle Berry to the prom and her saying no and then being surprised.
Well, okay, there's two things.
Halle Berry bad reference right now.
Yeah, not great. Okay. All right, so you're right. And Justin Zanuck said, hey, look, mathematically, this was the likelihood, and we've been preparing for it. It's not just that. It's Dallas. It's San Antonio. That's what's adding to everything. That's where a lot of the anger is coming from.
Well, Nico Harrison can still screw this up somehow, so we might be all right on the Dallas end. Probably unfair.
I mean, I'm sure Rob Pelinka's called already.
Right. The San Antonio thing, no, I'm so tired of San Antonio. And, I'll stop. I have comments I cannot make because they're not fair, and I have enough of a I can't be a Twitter warrior because I actually have a job that I want to keep. But San Antonio, I don't know. Their karma shouldn't be good. How's that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Scotty kind of hit it, David. I mean, for me, it's just the piling on, and it's the year after year. I went through some of the numbers of the Utah Jazz draft lottery history. They've been in the lottery 11 times. Their average pick is 10.3. I went through Mavericks. They've been there 17 times. Their average pick is 7.8. The Spurs, they've been there 9 times. Their average pick is 6.4. It's the piling on. The Jazz have never won it. They've never even won the number 2 pick. There's only 2 teams that haven't won the 1 or 2 in lottery history, and it's Denver and the Utah Jazz. And it just kind of feels like the Jazz, when are they going to get the win? I thought it might be this year, but it feels like they haven't done any winning for a long time. And I think fans are just it's all piled up on them.
Yeah, I've read enough. People's emotions are real. I'm not trying to devalue them and I feel it too. I'm not I guess I might be a little rational here. Like, one, it was a 48% chance. Two, like, I'm not sure I get I'm never watching again because of this. Like, it's not rigged. And then the final thing I would say is, like, it would have been way better if we got Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper. Okay, it would have been way better. I'm agreeing. We still would have lost 60 games next year. Like, it wasn't changing our route if we got Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper next year. That wasn't changing our route.
Yeah, but like you said, you have that you have that pillar.
Star.
You have that pillar.
Yeah, you gave you a guiding star. But we could get the guy. We may get the guiding star next year. Or we might get the guiding star at 5. I doubt. I've watched the players. I don't see it as obviously as I do with the others. But Trey Johnson's pretty good. He very well may be a 5. I'm a pretty big fan. Like, he's going to score 20 points a game in the NBA. Like, he's going to score 20 a night. I'm certain of it. If he scores 25 a night, he might be your guiding star.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's really good.
I just, I sent out a tweet last night that I thought was pretty rational, and it was not well received. And so I think
but I don't want to be like, I'm with everyone. Like, I have the same reaction. Like, I think it sucks. I'm like, I'm wearing black all day. I'm with everybody, right? Like, but let's also understand, like, it wasn't like this rebuild process was not ending last night, even under the best case scenario.
Well, no, people know that. I mean, come on, people aren't morons. Like they know that Victor hasn't been to the playoffs in 2 years, since being drafted. They know the Spurs, but nobody doubts that the Spurs are on their way to a championship, even before last night. Like, people knew that it wasn't going to be a playoff team next year. But people feel like their guts just got splayed out in front of them, with not them just falling back to 5, but Dallas, who engineered the worst trade in NBA history, getting rewarded. And then San Antonio doing their thing. I mean, that's what people are pissed about right now, is not the fact that they didn't get number 1. These others two hopped them, and that the Jazz have to go through this again. Like, without that guiding, without that pillar, without that thing to build around. If Cooper Flagg is on this team and they won 24 games next year, people would be like, that's all right. Because guess what? We're right back in the lottery, and we can add a Robin to our Batman, and let's go.
I mean, I get it. There are a whole big bunch of reasons why you can decide to be in a really bad mood about this, and I'm not in a particularly good one about it. So I'm with you about that. Like, yes. I mean, do you want me to add extra to this?
Let's go.
You really want me to you want me to depress everyone?
No,
or like, how far do you want me to go?
Yeah, see, that I don't know if we want to get David going down that hole.
I mean, can we really talk about the real story of the year that, like, we've just decided to not address?
Which is Luka?
The Taylor Hendricks injury is the real setback.
Oh.
The what injury? Sorry.
Taylor Hendricks
injury.
Yeah.
The single most important piece of our rebuild up to this moment lost an entire year. Like, if you want to lose your mind about what set the rebuild back and is going to force the rebuild to be longer, that's the issue. It's not the 5th pick last night. That didn't help. But truthfully, like, not knowing what Taylor Hendricks is probably for another 2 years is worse than last night.
I don't disagree with that.
I do.
I mean,
losing out on Cooper Flagg.
Like, if it's 2 or 3, yes. Cooper Flagg, yeah, no, yeah.
Right, but the chances of getting Cooper Flagg was very little. Was 14. The chances of your number 9 pick, who's hopefully can develop into something that's one of your significant pieces, being knocked out for a year because of a slippery floor, is like, seriously, what the is going on?
Yeah. No, I get it, Dan.
Right? Like,
I get it.
Like, you want the one that's like, you want to, like, lose your mind over feeling like the world's against you? Go there.
Yeah.
Was that a check swing, by the way? You were really close to getting us into trouble.
I was in control. There are debates about what I said on YouTube last night when we got the 5th pick. now I did not say what some people thought I did. But there are some debate for that.
I think the umpire looked at first base to see if you went all the way around on that one.
I did not go all the way around on that one.
Hey David, how much is this top 8 protected pick, this conveyance with OKC, how much does that force the Jazz hand in 25-26?
This is my point. We were in the rebuild next year.
Yeah. And that pick would have insured it?
Your choice is to draft in the top 8 of the draft and give someone a second-round draft pick in 2030, or to give them a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
Or give them a 10th, a more better pick.
Yeah.
With zero chance of winning a title.
Giddy up, folks. All right. Thank you.
Last night was not like what we wanted. It's bad. I was bummed. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. It's not catastrophically changing our route. And here's what truly is the issue. And we won't know this for 3 years. My guess is we're going to be in a similar important lottery for each of the next 2 seasons. So we're going to do 3 years of this, having the lottery be as important a day as any day of the year. At the end of those 3 years, we can look back and understand what last night was. If we go 5-1-3, that was what the process was. But right now, all we have is the 5.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard.
But if we had the 1 this year and the 5 next year, and let's say we did the exact thing that happened next year, we already had the 1, nobody'd be like, oh, well, who cares? We got the 1. We just don't have that item, that guiding star, or that item that gives us the feeling of being right. That's the problem.
This is why David Locke will go down as probably the greatest radio host in Salt Lake City history, because you never knew what you were going to get. This is not the avenue. I thought this would be like I would be having you sit on the couch in my therapist office, David. I didn't expect you to be the voice of reason today. I knew eventually you would be, but I didn't think today would be the day. I'm proud of you. I'm proud. No, yeah, you should be a little bit, because I really hyped you up like we were going to have a meltdown of biblical proportions.
Maybe I saw your wife already today. That didn't sound right. Never mind. Would you please explain that comment to everybody?
Hey, by the way,
that did not sound
yeah, I know.
right.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, I will say though that we got grad school to pay for, so we are accepting clients as we speak. So yes. Right. And that is for therapy, yes. That was a tribute
to Scotty's wife, who graduated last week with her advanced degree as a therapist. And so that was my shout out to Jenny and all of her incredible, and what a star she is. And I am president of the Jenny Gerard fan club, if Scott allows me to be.
Summa cum laude and commencement speaker.
Commencement speaker.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what that shout out was. It just didn't. It was evidently a check swing.
All right. Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Bye, David.
See ya.
All right. We'll wrap this up. Get you ready for JJ and Alex next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.